Welcome to my channel, and in this video I want to talk to you about things, about details which can stop me from purchasing a new coloring book or from selecting a picture to color. First, let's start from purchasing coloring books. And I won't be talking about obvious things like not purchasing IE books or books where I simply don't like the subject, like mandalas, patterns, dark, heavy grayscale, or other things. I won't be even talking about bad paper, because if the art is beautiful, I know that I will purchase books printed on Amazon paper. But I also need to take into consideration the art style when I make a decision. Can I color in the book printed on bad paper or no? For example, here we have this book with the worst paper, officially title of this book, Worst Paper in My Collection. Russell Hampson books, they also are printed on thin paper, but because of the good composition, with majority of details of pictures, they are surrounded by frames, which limits the amount of the area which I need to color, and a right amount of details. Thin paper doesn't bother me, doesn't prevent me from coloring in them. Yes, from time to time I want to color on better paper to be able to use watercolors, but still, lovely art and I color them. Here we have very bad paper where markers or pencils, they don't work. And even if the size of the book is small, I constantly struggle with empty backgrounds. There are many areas where I tried to use markers, then they didn't blend well, even close colors. So on top I used inks, I used pencils, so it was a struggle. Even closest colors, that's pencil background, it blended badly. If this book has better paper, or if this book has lesser amount of pictures with empty background, I mostly have now uncolored pictures where I need to do something with the background, and I remember all those ugly efforts trying to blend markers or to blend pencils, and I simply don't color it. But in the same time, if artist decided to print on toilet paper, then maybe he or she needs to think about which media it's still possible to use, and at least limit amount of such empty areas. Because in this book I also had several very pleasant colorings. Look at this one. No empty areas, normal size of the details, so I still can color with Prismacolors or with polychromos. That was very fun and pleasant to color. Another good examples are, well, this one wasn't bad. This one was quite okay. So, smaller background where I don't need to create difficult gradients. This one, no empty background, normal amount of details, and that's possible to color. So I would recommend for books printed on bad paper to create limited, to surround your picture with frame and not to leave a huge empty background, because this empty background totally stops me when I think about also about bad paper. Another important moment for me, it's perforation in the books. I dislike perforation. I prefer to keep my books as one thing. I dislike to tear away pictures. I don't support idea of framing them or putting them somewhere on display. For me it's totally not interesting. I prefer to keep all my pictures in the books and to be able to flip them through to enjoy my works. So when pages start to fall apart because of the binding or because of the perforation, for me it's a big stop from purchasing next books in the series. Well, strange thing happened with my mythographic Wild Winter. I have a lot of mythographic books, and that's the only one where I have such problems. That's where I continue to purchase. I still wish that mythographic don't have this perforation. Immediately after I started to color it, book started to fall apart, and guess what? It totally killed my desire to continue coloring in this book. Yes, I have a couple of other designs finished, and all of unfinished pictures are absolutely lovely. I hoped to spend the whole winter with this book. Lovely animals, lovely compositions, everything perfect. But what I constantly think is that my book is starting to fall apart. I dislike this cracking sound when the pages starts to fall. And comparing all my books, of course, this one I simply put on the shelf, and I color Frozen Fantasies by Fabiana Attanasio. So please, lesser amount of books with perforation for the safety of the books. And similar thing is that, unfortunately, in the Rome book, the recent one by Urban Anna, I discovered that after just one coloring, my book starts to fall apart, and that's definitely not great. Here we have the glued binding, here we have stitched binding. So if you can compare various editions, I always prefer something with stitched binding, because if something is falling from my books, it has a very high chances to finish its life in the trash. I definitely don't like to keep separate colored pages. So for me, binding is really important. Also, it's important to be able to lay the book flat. It's difficult to say from when you just make the decision about purchasing, but when I purchase, of course, for me it's important that I can put it flat, I can reach picture near the binding, I can film without problems, but the most important part is that all pictures are staying in its place. Third criteria which I try to consider when I look at the flip through, especially the new artist, new book, it's amount of pictures fillers. What I mean, let's look at this one. I purchased this one because I totally fall in love with the cover. And here we have supposedly a story of the girl traveling through fairy tales, dreams, various fantasy lands. And apart from the main pictures where we actually have the girl or some other interesting characters, because that's also very interesting pictures, there are pages which were added to make book thicker, let's be honest, like this one. Still, it's adorable, but with the amount of pictures books I own, I never love to color such pictures with separate elements, with such ornaments. Maybe I don't mind to have a couple of such pictures for testing art supplies, that's okay. But when half of the book or even bigger we have such filler pictures and only several normal pictures, that's when I start to think, do I actually want to purchase it? Again, maybe it's even connected to the story. We have here that astronomer part, and of course I'm interested in such pictures and never interested in such designs. Yes, maybe you can say that you have so many books that you still color maybe 1 or 2 pages in each of the books, even if they all have only such beautiful pictures, you still won't be coloring the book from the beginning until the end. Yes, but still I have this small inner block, like I purchase a book where I know that maybe half of pictures or even more are totally unusable for me. Of course, here I purchased because I counted pictures which are beautiful, which are interesting, and I decided that I need it. I noticed that it's actually a very popular composition of the book for Asian books. I have this one, or very similar in Tomoka Tashira. We have actually some fairy tales and then some filler pictures. Well, maybe they are not bad if you need to practice quickly how to color gemstones, but in general they are not what I love to color. So in the book, when I look at flip through, thanks to those who actually film those flip through, when I look at it, I try to count how many pictures are interesting and how many were put only to make book bigger. I don't know who in sane mind want to color such spread. Sorry, but if the book has plenty of such fillers and only several normal spreads actually connected to the theme of the book, so for me it's important. Now let's talk about what is bothering me or what I dislike when I select pictures to color. The first thing is probably pictures which were depicted in sketching style. I will explain. For example, these yearly books by Teresa Goodrich, they have very delicate line art, but a lot of excessive lines, like this one or this one. What I mean sketching style? You know, when artists starts to work with pencil to put main elements, to decide about their size, about their placement, where will be the main areas, that's great. But usually artist, before putting color on your drawing, he deletes excessive lines, very thick lines or excessive lines. Unfortunately, I can't do it. So when we have such excessive lines, especially when they are on the water, on the grass, usually I prefer to avoid such pictures. Good thing is that we have only a couple of them in this book and many other designs are better made, but still excessive lines, that's probably the only thing which I dislike in Teresa Goodrich books. Similar thing I recently noticed in Epic World by Tolkien, too many lines which you can't explain. This one, I would say that, and it's not the worst example, I unfortunately closed where was a huge amount of those lines. You can't understand them. You probably, well, let's say I prefer more clean line art. Even on my recent page, when it was just initial black and white line art, those shadows, those multiple lines on hair, and even those slightly messy lines to indicate folds on the fabric, it was okay. But when I start to actually apply color, they start to bother me. I again try to cover them. I don't need so many lines here. I can do my own shadows on the fabric. Also not very accurate lines, like it was like initial drawing without good finish. So in the end, I more think about how I can improve lines here, how I can mask lines here. So I prefer more clean line art. That's the final idea. Also, the size of the elements. Of course, when I look closer at the pictures, at the flip through, I try to imagine what kind of art supplies I can use for them. In Mythographic, I usually prefer to use either markers or watercolor for the background and then pencils. But unfortunately, I have books where I wasn't very attentive when I looked at the flip through, and now I have pictures where I even have no idea what I can use for coloring. Okay, let's even stop here. I would say that the size of this dragon, size of this building, flowers, this castle, it borders on totally impossible to color even with hard polychromos pencils. I don't even want to talk about soft Prismacolors. The same here. Such a tiny and unclear line art that for me the only media I can use is fine liners, and it's not my favorite media. So I love detailed pictures. For me that's what define adult coloring: amount of details, composition, and what's differ it from children's books where we have bigger elements. But this small detalization, it also has to be normal. I think that many of the artists, unfortunately, they create coloring books, but they never tried to color their own art, because if they feel like it's impossible to use pencils to stay in lines because of the size, they probably would slightly change their style. And of course, I would say that art from the artists who also color, it's more high quality. So for me, it's important to have detailed pictures, but not extremely small, so I still can use pencils, which is my main medium. Next, maybe let's talk once again about thick black lines. It's not a big stop for me, it's just what prevent me from calling such pictures perfect. You know that I love to color Teresa Goodrich book. I color them very frequently. I enjoy doing them, but that's why when I can enjoy them 100%, because of the some elements, I enjoy them only for 90%. And such elements, they are very thick lines, and unfortunately that's what she started to add in her recent books. Even on these flowers, on these stones, I would call these lines excessive. I actually spent a couple of previous days trying to erase or mask such black lines. I almost ruined 2 pages, I barely saved them. And that's probably what pushed me to film this video, because I am honestly tired of masking lines on flowers. I am also tired of masking stupid clouds. Good thing is in this book we don't have stupid clouds, but believe me, they are in other books. Let me show you somewhere. Well, I definitely don't need such clouds. I mask them. I also dislike these lines on the water. Yes, I know that they're supposed to imitate highlights, but highlights on the water, it's quite often is white, so those lines, they are not very helpful. Those clouds, that's a very popular thing in Teresa books, and that's what I usually erase. And another thing, when something is out of style, how to show you? Okay, here we have almost perfect composition, everything is lovely, and then somewhere on the front we have less realistic butterfly, huge in the size. Sometimes we have, like again, butterfly in the size of the cat, or quite realistic flowers, plants, perfect composition in the middle, and then flowers which looks like 5 years old, draw them. If there would be more variations in size, like normal, smaller and bigger flowers, some unopened buds, leaves between them, it would make this page absolutely totally perfect. Now it's just perfect for 25 persons, so of course I will color it. I just wish that these books, because I absolutely love Teresa Goodrich, they would be even better. Next thing which is important for me is composition, and that's where we are moving to Maria Trolle. I already mentioned that when I have pictures, I prefer to have designs framed by some kind of border, or they have such finished, like this one. That's for me perfect finished composition. If you look at some of the designs here, I would say that here composition is bad. Busy bottom part, something huge and strange here, and empty. Even if when I start to think about it, of course I don't want to cover it until the edges. What can I do here? To do green area to imitate kind of garden and then something blue for the sky, it still will look unbalanced and empty. I don't have any desire to add something myself. If I have normal drawing skills, I won't be doing coloring. I would draw myself. I think that it's an artist work. Maybe to add another tree here, maybe additional landscape behind. I don't know, but to finish it, it's definitely artist work. On several pictures I tried to add my own frame, but very quickly I ran out of ideas, I ran out of patience, and for many pictures like this one, I wouldn't mind to color this beauty. But how? Again, very busy bottom part. To cover it again just with blue color? Well, maybe, but that's not what satisfies my inner artist, and I can't even finish it with frame because here we have this dragonfly. So compositions, I prefer something much more finished. There are other examples. In Maria Trolle, I can show you plenty of such examples of my struggle. Here, page on the left, it's not bad, just nothing very interesting on it, but it has better composition. On the right side, I tried to add something, not to draw, just to add background. I didn't like it, it still looked very empty and boring. I said, go to hell, I don't want to proceed. And many other works. Picture here, it's not interesting. Picture here is lovely, but again, I think that it's an artist work to add here. Maybe a couple of like hanging lines, maybe more flowers. I don't want to put efforts into finishing those compositions. I am a lazy person, so that's why I almost never color in Maria Trolle books. Composition is really important. And final thing which I want to discuss is pictures with faces. I am not great with coloring portraits. Only recently, when I started to color in books by Christian Karen, I started to feel more confident. But that's because of the beautiful line art and her very helpful shading. Also, these books are printed on great paper, so I can use a variety of pencils, paints. So I can layer, I can mask lines, I can do more complicated shading, so everything is great. Totally different thing is that when book is printed on thin paper, and I can allow myself maybe to apply a couple of layers of pencils, and that's all. So in such cases, of course, beauty of face is really important. If I can see imperfections on faces, and I know that I can't change it because of lack of my skills, because of thin paper, I definitely won't select such page. I will show you an example. Pictures in this book, they are quite interesting. I do love the mythology theme, but I don't like these faces. Bad thing is that I can see their imperfections, maybe too big eyes, maybe slightly not my style of coloring hair, but because of the thin paper and lack of my skills, I don't know how to change them. So when I have other books printed on the same thin paper, but with pictures which are much more realistic, with much more regular, more beautiful, attractive faces, like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one, they all printed on almost the same paper, thin, without possibility to use watercolors or very thin layer of watercolors. So of course, when I need to select, I will go to the art which is initially more beautiful, more to my taste. Here we were talking about almost realistic portraits, so I think that the skill of the artist is his or she is capable to draw attractive, realistic portraits, especially with different facial impressions. If we look at all those girls, they have different faces, different impressions, like some are sad, some are dreaming, well, and here all of them, they have almost the same face, just different position of them. That's also not very attractive. So that was about realistic portraits. For me, it's important to have nice line art. I don't want to waste my time. I don't have skills trying to change something. Well, again, not my first choice. I also don't mind to color more simplified, more decorative faces. You know, all those girls with huge eyes, without nose. But it also depends. When pictures have this particular style, like Jasmine Beckett Griffith, I love to color them. I actually very thankful that I don't have to think about shading, just a little bit of shadow near eyes, and Jasmine Beckett Griffith girls are perfect. But there is a part of the pictures which are between those deliberately decorative faces and those realistic faces. And now I'm talking about Sagar or Sackner, for example, or again Maria Trolle. Only in Klara Markova I can accept and color those simplified but lovely pages on elves. When I look at pictures here on those faces, like this one or this one, I dislike them, and I know that I won't be happy with my final coloring if I don't mask those excessive eyebrows, if I maybe change a little bit the shape of the nose. So mostly when I select pictures here, I select something apart from the portraits. It's a lovely page, full of nice flowers, but still, when I think about her eyes, which I would love to change, about her nose, even her lips and eyebrows, I think, oh no, sorry guys, not today. I am lazy, I don't want to put any efforts. I will color flowers, I will color something where I don't need to change. I can simply color. I remember how I struggled, for example, with my mermaid to get. For mermaid it's not so bad, but I still struggled with her nose, with her eyes. And that's what prevent me from doing almost all girls' portraits in this book. And very similar thing with Maria Trolle. I wanted to start fairy tales. I opened it on the Beauty and the Beast. Okay, composition. Well, I can survive it. Even if I would be the artist, I would add another similar flower, another branch, so we will have kind of frame. Well, okay, so let's forget about it, but let's look at the face. I looked at the girl and I thought that maybe she has a toothache. Maybe she ate the previous beast, so she looks quite well fed. I don't want to color it. If I just put color here, I still will be looking only on her strange cheeks. If I start to change it, it will cost me a lot of efforts, maybe not a lot of pleasure. So why would I color it? If I can close it, I can select different style of picture, different portrait, and I can have more pleasure. So for me it's very realistic portrait with nice facial expression, with nice proportions, or totally decorative faces where you don't expect much, like this one. Here, okay, so that's two sizes of pictures with portraits which I prefer. When in the middle we have almost realistic but not very nicely done portraits, that's a big no for me. I usually don't color such pictures. I don't want to put my efforts into changing them into something more to my taste. Of course, it's a personal preference of what I enjoy to do, of how I love to have my finished work. So of course it depends from what you expect from the finished page. It's not, I don't want to say that those books, they are bad. Totally no, but it's about pleasure of coloring, or about struggle, effort, hard work of changing pictures. That's what I mean. So sometimes, and quite often, I simply select pictures which are easier to color and which are more according to my taste. I will be very happy to hear about your criteria when you select your new books, what is important for you to have on the pictures. So I hope that it wasn't a very negative video, because you know that I love many of the artists which I mentioned here, so I just wanted their pictures to be even more perfect.